and I have a special guest today. If it looks like you're seeing double, you are not seeing double, or maybe you are seeing double, or maybe you're seeing into my future just a little bit. Well, I have none other than Papa G, as he is affectionately known in our household, Lionel Nelson of the Voices of Liberty. Welcome, Pops, to the podcast.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, it is awesome to have you for this podcast. I know you've had me on your podcast a couple of times. I figure I got to do you a favor.
Yeah, if that's what you call it.
Yeah, that's what we call it, right? Well, there are very few people, I think in my own life that I can point to and says, "Hey, if you want to know anything about me, just look at that person." Exactly. I mean, like spitting image in every way, down to the fact that, I mean, our mannerisms are similar. I mean, we play the same exact instrument. As you can see, we're wearing the same type of, clothing, hat with some glasses with a black frame. But I got to tell you, it in so
Uh,
many ways, and I've said this to my dad privately, but man, I there aren't too many people that I am as proud of as my father, Lionel Nelson. And again, I know that's a long intro, Pops, but I got to let him know.
I'm humble. I'm humbled. I'm humbled.
Well, welcome to the podcast. Well, you and the Voices of Liberty are going to be coming back for a third time to the city of Pembroke Pines to perform for the Martin Luther King um, Day celebration. But I want to give our listeners an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you, your style, your influence, and everything. So let's open it up. So describe your musical style. I mean, even if you want to dive into, I mean, how long you been doing this thing of music? Period.
Well, I have been officially playing my main instrument as far as bass guitar since I was 9 years old. Um, I am now currently, so that'd be 55 years. So it's funny. Can I tell the story how I got started?
Yeah, let's go.
So where we lived at, we were playing sandlot football. We were playing in the courtyard, and I had always wanted to be a drummer, but because we lived in an apartment at the time, that wasn't a good idea as far as the noise. So one day, my father was coming home. He came home from work, and he had this big white guitar in his hand. I didn't know what. I just thought it was guitar. And I didn't know the difference between a guitar and a bass. But it caught my attention, so I took off, man. I didn't even wait. I didn't hesitate. Man, I ran up the stairs behind him and got in the house. That's when he told me that it was a bass guitar for me. He had bought for me. So he showed me one bass line, and I've been doing it ever since. And what we have for amplifier, I don't know if I know I'm really dating myself. So we had the type of record player
Like
that had the
fine wine,
speaker on the
Pops. It's
top.
like fine wine.
Huh?
I said like fine wine, Pops.
Yeah, we had a little speaker on the top. You take it off. It's like we used to have in school. So that's what I had used for an amp. But what was good about it was that I had 145 that was by the Violinaires, which was a top gospel group during the time. And it had a song on it called The Solid Rock. So my dad showed me the bass line just that one day. The next day he came home, I was playing that song, Solid Rock. Then I had reversed because first he taught me bum, 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 bum. That's the signature for everybody. So when it came home again that next day, after that, I had reversed it, bum, 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 bum. It was just it. It was just a natural. So that's how I got started. Started as playing the bass guitar, and that has been, man. I love the instrument. I love the instrument, and I've been doing it ever since.
And what were some other influences? I know during that era, the bass became a lot more prominent. Where the bass was more in the background. But
Right.
I mean, you grew up in an era where it's like if you're a bass player, you were the cat's meow.
Yep. Yeah, so it was interesting that I'm sure everybody probably is familiar with Jaco Asterius. And so even though I was in gospel, and I I guess at the time when I started, it was just listening to records. And so I wasn't around a lot, like you say, a lot of bass players. And then the interesting thing is that a lot of the bass players during that time, that they really did not express or felt the need or obligated to really share, with others upcoming. And so whatever I can glean, so I did a lot by just listening and what have you. But by the time I was about 14, 15 years old, that's when a lot of my peers started, those who was in the era at the time, started um, comparing me to him. In essence, sounded like Jaco. So he was a big influence in my life. And then Stanley Clark. Stanley Clark was the other during that era when I was coming up. So yeah.
Yeah, two greats. I mean, Jocko was doing stuff on the bass that people didn't know you can do on the bass.
Correct. Right. 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 And the last person who I was when I really noticed what my style was, because I like the speed. I wasn't really into a lot of thumping, never have been a fan of course, Larry Johnson during the time, but I was never really into thumping. I guess my style, because at first, let me say this, first of all, I used to play with a pick. That's how I
Mm,
started out playing. I started playing with the pick. So it wasn't
interesting.
until I was, I don't know, maybe late teens when I really started just put the pick down and started playing with my fingers. So when I
Mm,
started doing that, I say by the time I was, I think by that time, that's when I started catching on with Billy Sheen, and I
mm,
really loved his style. And I think what was encouraging to me was that he was able to really just capture the essence of the song, just playing, just feel, you know, and just playing with his fingers. And he did no thumping. He did no thumping at all. Um, and that was encouraging to me. And I had
mm,
gravitated to his style and to his flow, or what have you. So yeah.
yeah. Now, you're not just a bass player. I mean, you play other instruments, but you're also a pretty accomplished songwriter. I know you had several groups, back in the day. But I know one thing that I noticed: your songs don't sound like everybody else's songs. So, talk about your writing style and maybe even some of your influences as it relates to how you write and how you compose your music.
Yes, it's interesting that you asked that question, because um, writing, I really, it was just something that came natural, first of all. And the other thing too is that, so I was with this group called the Day Singers. And even then, I think I was 14, 15 years old at the time. Even then, all the songs, as a matter of fact, because we have, not this kind of sidebar, we have an event coming up where we're going to be acknowledging or honoring the man who started the group at the time. And so we have been having like several rehearsals. And so in rehearsal, so I said, man, I don't remember that song. So they looked at me and said, well, how you not remember? You the one that wrote it. As a matter of fact, you wrote everything that we sung. I said, man, y'all really stressing me right now. So that's just something that I've always done. And then what has always been my inspiration was a lot of the, um, I guess if I was to answer that question, the best way for me to answer that question would be that a lot of the songs that I wrote were, they identify particular chapters and pages and stories and events and certain things in my life. So a lot of things that I I experienced writing songs was like a comfort for me, and they would like tell my story and and then what I believe, what I believe. And so a lot of them was always about encouraging myself, encouraging others, being an inspiration to others through writing. So yeah, I've always, in every group that I've been a part of, with the exception of one, but I did write two of the songs in which they did record one of them. That all the groups I've been with, I've wrote all the songs pretty much so. And that has always been a natural for me. And then the other thing, I don't want to take too much time on this, but the other thing to it too is that, like you said, I never wanted to sound like nobody else. So I wanted, when people hear, even with my bass playing, when people hear me or hear a song, they knew it came from, Lionel Nelson. It was his style, it was his flow. Then yes, just wanted just to be an individual. And that's how I always took my plan, because even going back to, even though I listened to Jocko, I listened to Stanley, I listened to Billy, and then there were some others there as well, though. I always wanted to take what they're doing, but still stay within the same identity of who I was and my style of playing.
I love that. Johan, our good friend, he has this thing. It's like this 3-step process when he's teaching kids about music. He says you first you imitate what you hear, so you copy it
Mm-hmm.
note for note. He's like, then you assimilate, take what you like, and then you
Right.
innovate, try and do something that may be a little bit different. It may be similar, but just a little bit different from that.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, you have this wonderful group that's formed over the years called the Voices of Liberty. Talk to us about the origins of the Voices of Liberty, or even and dig into some of the music that you perform and how all of that took place. Is that a long story?
Woo! That's, okay, so I don't know, maybe this might help someone. I'm going to tell this story because maybe it might help someone. So, always being a person who was always on a lead role with groups, it was really, okay, again, doing original music, sounds, or whatever, it was always easy to, okay, if you didn't fit, hey, I get somebody else, if you didn't play right, okay, bye, I get somebody else. But coming into with the Voices of Liberty, especially due to the fact that it was church oriented, it was a challenge for me, or I don't want to say challenge is too strong a word, but I'm going to say it was a learning experience for me to learn how to take individuals who have a heart for just being realistic about it, praise and worship when it came to God. And I didn't focus, and one of the lessons that I learned, I didn't focus on the talent. You didn't have to be talented. You don't have to be, something that you was born with, you were gifted with. Hey, if it is, okay, that's great. But I learned that it's more important to take the will of a person who has the right heart and then give them the tools that they need in order to excel, in order to do that what you want. And so the Voices of Liberty are a group of individuals, they may not, may not want to go out there and try to win a Grammy or anything like that, but they just have a desire and a love for what they do. And so as a leader, it was my responsibility. I took it upon myself to make sure that they had the tools that they need in order to execute and to excel. And they really grasped hold to it. And I love them. I love them from the depths of my heart. Because even though being such a hard taskmaster, as you know, that we as Nelsons can be,
No,
you know,
no, I don't know what you're talking about, Pops, at all.
as far as perfectionists, but they stood the test of time. So we've been doing it for some years now, and then it was a lot. it was a good ride, and I love them. Great people, and even with them, you know, we would we would use, or shall I say, take songs and implement them in our repertoire. But majority of the songs that we do, they're originals.
Yeah, you know, I really appreciate you saying that. You know, one of the things that Christine and I recognized early on when we heard you guys sing, we both said there was just something different about the way that you guys minister. It it,
Yeah.
you guys got a large group, but it never feels like there's anyone who's trying to outshine anyone else. It genuinely feels like there is genuine love, and the focus is not on the group itself. It's not even on the music. It's really on, you know, the object of praise, which is the Lord. And it really cuts through, I mean, very, very, very clearly.
Well, thank you for saying that, and because that in itself um, was one of the things that I never wanted it to be centered around one or two people.
Mhm.
No, we in this together. You know, no matter, hey, whatever you have to bring it with the open heart, sincere heart, and the whole objective is for us. You know, our ministry is to worship God and to lead others into that worship. So, you know, all of it was a learning experience. You know, without getting into a whole lot of detail, but great people, man, great people. I love them. I love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, you guys are going to be our featured guests, as I said at the top of the podcast, for a third in a row at the city of Pembroke Pines. But, you know, and that's happening January 20th from 10 to 12 p.m. At the Charles F. Dodge City Center. We're going to be honoring a giant in faith, Dr. Martin Luther King. What does this day signify for you?
Whoa. So, and one word that comes to mind. Now hear what I'm going to say when I say this word: freedom.
Mm.
And what I mean by freedom is not so much being freedom from the word that people like to use, racism, whatever, but just freedom to be able to identify with who I am as a person, not whether or not I'm black, white, pink, or purple, but just being able to identify with myself as a person. So when I think or give thought to his speech, I have a dream, I understand absolutely what he's saying and what he means by that. And
Mhm.
I strive within my own self to live that out in the capacity in which that I can, not only for myself, but for my family, and to be that spearhead that my family would also see the same thing and not live through life based on the era in which that he was striving to change during that time, if I can phrase it that way. So yeah, freedom in being an individual and being able to utilize, you know, the God-given gifts and talents and inspirations that he has given you, you know, for whoever may need it, you know, for the masses,
Yeah,
not just for uh, a group of people or a culture of people. Man, bunk that. No, that he stood for more than that. And
mhm.
you know, we don't talk about it every day or 365 days a year, but I strive that my life is a reflection of what he stood for and a continuation of this day that has been set aside to acknowledge him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely powerful. You know, I think about, you know, in American history, he is only one of two people who has a specific day named after him.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
one is Jesus. He got his own birthday. This and Martin Luther King got his own birthday, and they lumped all the presidents together, you know, into President's Day. They all used to have their individual
right.
day, but you
Right.
know, the life and legacy of Dr. King, you know, continues to hold. And I think what you said is just so true that, you know, and I know we've talked extensively about this. This is not just about what he did for, you know, Black Americans, you know, in the
Mm-hmm.
South in particular. It's really about the liberation that he brought to an entire nation, and that extended out into the world because of his what he believed was universal and transcended, above all. Hey, let's treat each individual as image bearers made in the image of God, and allow them, give them the freedom to be everything that God has created them and called them to be. And stop judging them by just what you see, but there's so much more on the inside, just as long as they have that opportunity. So, well, Pops, this has
Right.
been absolutely amazing, man. We absolutely have to do this again, Pops. This can't be the last time. But hey, before we close out, hey, we want to take a few minutes and do some. Anybody have any questions for the one and only Lionel Nelson? So, what has been? We had a question come in. What has been the most challenging thing you had to learn on the bass?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, that I had to learn, and I want to had to learn. Challenging thing I had to learn. That's a tough question, but it's a good question for the very simple reason that if I had to identify anything, if I had to give an answer to that question, it wouldn't be in the point from the point of being able to play something particular, because uh, another sidebar. I remember this guy. This is when key bass was really coming out during this time. So I mean, this is like mid-90s, and this musician, he was on keys, playing keys. So we was preparing for this concert, and so he did a little riff on the key bass on the keys. So and then he said, "I bet you can't do that." So I said, "Play it again." So I played, and I played it, and so oh, okay. So he did something else. I mean, I'm right on top of him. So then he did something. I'm like, well, okay. I say what, when we get together tomorrow, I guarantee I'll have that. So the next day came, I had it. So, but I said all that to say this: it wasn't so much about having something difficult to play, because I always challenged myself to play the impossible. But if I had my biggest challenge was really getting the tone that I want, getting the sound that I want, and being able to reproduce that over and over. So it was basically just about learning, what strings work best, what amp, not only just the head itself, the amp itself, but the speakers. That was the challenge for me, just building the sound that I wanted to have and how I wanted my bass to sound. And really
Yeah,
getting into electronics and things like that.
that's a really good response, because that's one thing that a lot of folks don't really think about. It's like you have a song, you have a sound in your head. It's not just about playing, but you have a sound in your
Right.
head that you're really trying to create, and that you're trying to
Correct.
make your own sound.
You should have your own sound.
Mhm.
Because something, to tell you the truth, and then going to my whole point, it don't matter what you play, because I mean, listen, there was stuff that Jocko played, I played. It's stuff that Victor Wooten and some of these other great bass players played. There's always going to be somebody who's going to play what you play, but the thing, and then also your approach to playing, knowing how to adjust when, depending on who you're with and where you're with, what style and what have you. And that's one of the things that I just really took pride in doing.
Some awesome, great response. Well, hey, Pops, I want to say again, thank you for joining the podcast. You definitely will be back, because I mean, we obviously got some other questions. I mean, I think somebody on here wants some bass lessons from you, but I'll let you handle that. Uh-oh,
Let
we
me
got
see.
another
Oh, there
question.
was another question there. Somebody asked a question.
Yeah, somebody. Oh my goodness, we got someone asking a question. In your opinion, did Jerry live up to the standard you have for him being a musician?
I
That's a
wouldn't
good
even.
question.
I wouldn't even hesitate. Yes, because it's always, again, I wouldn't. I would. Okay. So a lot of you don't know that Jerry's not my only son that plays bass. My youngest son, who's also named Lionel, he plays bass as well. Nevertheless, though, they're both good musicians within their own right. But you know, hey, I'm master, man. I'm master. You know,
Coming for
I'm
you,
not
Pop.
gonna ever.
Coming.
Uh,
I feel a bass battle coming soon. That's what's gonna have to happen. We're gonna have a bass battle. Remember the gray hair is starting to set in. I got some wisdom. I got some wisdom, Pops. I'm catching you.
no,
Well, hey,
he's.
Pops. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, man. Yeah, no. To the question, no, he's outstanding, outstanding young man. I really appreciate him. Yeah, I never had to really address him about his bass playing. Neither one of them really, and I really I take pride in that. You know, so yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Pops, and appreciate all of you guys for joining us for another podcast. Again, remember MLK Day, uh, June, not June. It is not June. We'll try this again. Hang on a second. All right, I am going to get my act together here. All right. Yeah, it's January 20th,
Yeah.
from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're going to have all types of festivities and activities out there before the Voices of Liberty take the stage at 11 a.m. By the way, EMG is going to be launching a merch page, and we're doing something super special. We have a Black History Edition EMG, so that's what's behind me right now. I got my Black History shirt going on here. So if you guys want to purchase a Black History shirt, and again, you guys can sport it all the way throughout February. We're trying to get ahead of the curve here. Look out for our page. It's not up just yet, but EMG merch. We're going to be putting that stuff out there. But if you want to pre-order a shirt, you guys can hit us up on the Cash App or Zelle, and we'll get that in the mail. And you guys just need to put your size in the note there as well. And oh, here we go. We want to give a shout out to our friends of EMG. We want to thank our top contributors, Harold and Jaseth Went, those who are praying for us regularly, encouragement, the Wilkinson family, those who show up all the time, Marissa Pardo, shout out to you, Marissa. Thank you so much. You're at every event. And then those who share all the time on social media, Manny Pardo, thank you so much. And then Orlin and Christo Glasgow, we want to thank them because they are the ones that's really doing all the monumental work on setting up our website. So we want to thank our top contributors. And if you want to become a friend of EMG, you got 5 opportunities to do that, or you can do all 5 and become a superstar. All right, you can give, you can pray, you can show up, you can share, and you can help. We appreciate it. And just as everyone's acknowledged, everything that we do at EMG, it's all about a family affair. We do this as a family. It's to benefit our family and our friends, our family by extension. So we just want to say we appreciate you. Again, thanks, Pops, for joining the podcast. And until next time, everyone, take care.